Hello, everybody. Welcome along. A video in the middle of the day with no preparation and no warning can mean only one thing. Out of Huddersfield Town goes Darren Moore. We have another sacking in the EFL Championship this season. And Darren Moore didn't even start the season as Huddersfield Town manager. We'll get into all the whys and wherefores. You get your comments on the decision to sack Darren Moore by Kevin Nagel and the Huddersfield higher-ups. And the conversation will then start. Who next for Huddersfield? Let's just do the short term really quickly because it was a massive relegation head-to-head, wasn't it, this past weekend? It was QPR 1, Huddersfield 1. Huddersfield led with 3 minutes of 7 minutes of stoppage time remain. I think they conceded in minute 94 and there was 97 due to play. You do wonder, would this decision have been made had Huddersfield won that game? They didn't, and it has been made, but it's worth asking the question. By the way, there would have been a switch of places had QPR won that game. Given the goal difference, it would have been QPR leaving the bottom three and Huddersfield dropping in had Huddersfield lost that game and QPR won. And I believe, if I've got my timelines right, yes, Huddersfield, Sheffield Wednesday next weekend, which not just for Darren Moore narrative reasons, but because the gap there is 6 points between Huddersfield and Sheffield Wednesday, would have been another huge game for Darren Moore to go into. And in between these two massive games, they have pulled the trigger and Darren Moore is out. I'm going to read from the statement in just a second. But remember the summer, Sheffield Wednesday have been promoted. 96 points they scored in League One last season and missed out in any other season. They're champions and promoted by miles, but crazy season because there was a 98 from Ipswich and 101 from Plymouth up ahead of Darren Moore and Sheffield Wednesday. They won through the playoffs, and then a falling out between Mr. Chansiri, the owner of Sheffield Wednesday, and Darren Moore meant that a manager who just had an incredibly successful on paper. I know Sheffield Wednesday fans do say, okay, don't necessarily judge it purely on the fact that they went up. But look, he won a hell of a lot of games. He scored a hell of a lot of points. And he took Wednesday up at Wembley and back into the Championship. But he was out of the door before the season started at Sheffield Wednesday. But he was back in the Championship fairly swiftly. And we talk about kind of maybe fallouts between owners and managers. We think potentially that Neil Warnock, who was in at the start of the season at Huddersfield, maybe didn't totally see eye to eye with Kevin Nagel, however you want to pronounce it, the Huddersfield owner there. Maybe some promises in terms of spending and wages, and a few public comments from Warnock, who, let's be honest, is an absolute master of the craft of presenting himself in the best possible way in terms of his reputation. Very, very smart thinker and clever talker, Neil Warnock. But that's not to say there wasn't any truth in his comments there. And there was the parting of the ways there. I'm trying to think what it was. I think transfer window had closed, had it September. Maybe it was October. I can possibly have a look. Maybe they'll make mention of it on the statement. But Darren Moore has not been in long. His reputation, certainly from what I saw at Sheffield Wednesday last season, was a fairly sort of stiff defensive style and being hard to beat. And, you know, Wednesday got a lot of clean sheets and a lot of single goal victories, particularly through that brilliant 23-game undefeated streak in the middle of League One last season. But very much not Neil Warnock. I know Neil Warnock's seen as old-fashioned, but he's not afraid to stick a load of strikers on, get the ball forward and get everybody taking shots and things of that nature, rather than being a pragmatic kind of, take a point manager, which Darren Moore appears to be. Right. This is from the tweet from Huddersfield, which has taken me through to their website. Darren Moore has been relieved of his duties as Huddersfield manager today, 29th of January. Decision was taken after the QPR game, interesting, which took, let's try and find the subtle digs here. They actually put his record in the statement: 3 wins, 11 draws, and 9 defeats. So that is 11, 9, 20, 23. Okay, so it's exactly half the season he was in charge, and he won 3 games. So look, I can say on the one hand, it's a bit of a dig mentioning that, but it's its own dig, isn't it? If you've won 3 games all, I mean, how many points is that, by the way? 14 points in 23. No, sorry, excuse me. 3 wins, 9, 20 points in 23 games. Is relegation form, isn't it? If we think the 45 to survive point per game is what you need, 20 points in 23 games is relegation form for the half season Darren Moore has been in charge. Kevin Nagel, what does he say? Darren is a fantastic man, blah, de, blah. Want to keep our championship status. We appointed Darren on the strength of his credentials. It's now clear that this has not worked, wow, as we'd envisaged. Absolutely been mitigating circumstances, talking about injuries and whatnot there. I believe that our current squad, and bear in mind, Huddersfield have just, I think they've spent about 4 or 5 million euros, according to the transfer mark data. A couple of strikers in, loanee from Chelsea as well. So I think that's the owner saying, look, we back the manager, and whoever comes in next are expected with this squad to keep Huddersfield in the division. We're moving quickly to identify the right person. We hope to make a managerial appointment soon. Chief Exec Jake Edwards, I want to begin by echoing the chairman's comments. Come on, Jake. Give us your own opinion. We still have 17 games to be played this season. Still gives us a chance to positively impact. Oh, here we go. To fit our longer-term strategy of building an attack-minded, progressive style of football over a number of seasons. Look, whatever the rights or wrongs are, that now sets alarm bells off, doesn't it, in terms of the Wayne Rooney situation. We heard about no fear football and an attacking style and all of this business. Fair enough. Any owner can have their philosophy of what they want, but you have to have everything joined up. You need the players to do that. You need the academy producing players to help to do that. You need a manager who can coach that. You need recruiters looking for players that fit all that, and everything needs to work together. You cannot just say, I want no fear football, or what does Jake Edwards say? Attack-minded, progressive style of football. He does, to be fair, say over a number of seasons, but you have to provide, as an owner or a CEO, that environment and all of those links coming together to produce that outcome. It's not just a case of, right, Mr. Manager, come in and turn us into Brazil 1982 or whatever, I don't know, Barcelona 2009. I'm exaggerating for effect, but I think you take my point, and we'll see. We'll see how that transpires in terms of the appointment. What do I think? Was it the right hire in the first place? Excuse me. If they wanted attack-minded football, then that's on them, really, because if they'd done their due diligence on Darren Moore at Sheffield Wednesday, then it was kind of pragmatic. So I guess, look, it's their right to say, we wanted this, we didn't get this. But if they wanted attacking football, then perhaps bringing Darren Moore in the first instance is not necessarily the surefire way to get it. Kevin Nagel, I find interesting as an owner. He's certainly very bloody honest on Twitter about things and his little debriefs and whatnot. Look, I can accept both sides of that. I'm sure some people will find it refreshing on the one hand that he's open and honest. Other people will say, well, you know, come on, should certain things be kept behind closed doors? And should that be a conversation you're having with the manager, not your entire Twitter following? But hey, she was a very successful man to be owning Huddersfield Town, and, you know, whatever the other sort of United States business interests Kevin Nagel has got. So it obviously wasn't a very good hire in the first place, and they've admitted as much. Do I think they should have sacked him? I mean, it's pretty damning, isn't it? When you look at the 23 games and the 20 points, that's going to continue and what happens? Sorry, let me just check the championship table. If we were to add a point per game on, so yeah, they're under the point per game and they've got 17 to play. They're going to end up on, there you go, bang on 45 points. Is that right? 17 to play, 28 add 17, 35, 45. To be fair, 45 on average, most seasons, you stay up. But we have seen improvements at QPR, little splurge and then a bit of a tail off. Key that they didn't lose that game, Huddersfield, to QPR at the weekend. Sheffield Wednesday, I wonder if there's an even better upside there as well. Ironically, Darren Moore's former club, because I think between sort of December and FA Cup round 3, I think they won about 6 games. So if they get another run like that, and QPR and Huddersfield are just very slow, then, you know, potentially Huddersfield would get dragged into it. So I guess what Huddersfield are looking for is that impact and, you know, some kind of period of, you know, it doesn't take much down at the bottom of the table, let's just say. If you have a little 10-game run and you win, I don't know, 3 games out of the 10 and sort of get 3 draws and 4 defeats or whatever, and you stick 12 points on in that period, that tends to really put pressure on bad teams that are going to ultimately end up in the bottom 3 and make sure that you're probably not going to be one of them. We always even say 3-game week down at the bottom of the championship, just win 2 of the games at any point during the season and your points per game spikes like nobody's business across that particular week. I do think, and I have thought for a while, that it is free from 4 down there in terms of, I think, Birmingham with Mowbray and Stoke with Schumacher, Blackburn with the attacking roster. There's that little 4-point gap between Huddersfield and Birmingham at the moment. Birmingham got game in hand. And it's actually a 7-point gap from QPR and a 10-point gap. So it does very much look like these teams are jockeying and Huddersfield are the one at risk. And it just needs to be an average, unless Sheffield Wednesday, QPR, I mean, we're not mentioning Rotherham. Could they do something spectacular as well? And when I say spectacular, you're talking about a team who's not been anywhere near a point per game all season, jumping up to, say, 1.5 and, you know, mid-table form. And that'd be upper mid-table form, wouldn't it? And, you know, really putting the pressure. We have seen teams do that in, you know, recent seasons and power their way out of relegation trouble. So, in terms of who's next, I have absolutely no clue who Huddersfield are going to want to take. I couldn't even make you a suggestion in terms of who would be a good fit. I guess if I were to look at the championship table and think of people that have gone out of jobs, Matt Taylor, Cisco Munoz gone out, Gareth Ainsworth, Neil Warnock, sure that ship sailed. Wayne Rooney's gone out. Michael O'Neill has gone out. Gary Rowett. You won't get attacking football out of him, but he'd have it probably safe. Mike Duff's gone. Stephen Schumacher's obviously still in the championship. Nigel Pearson. Preston Ryan Lowe. Watford haven't sacked anyone, incredibly. Sunderland, obviously Tony Mowbray's been redeployed, and then we're up towards the top of the table. So there are names that are ready to go, but I've just got this attacking football thing in my head, and maybe some of the ready-to-go names, they'll keep you up in the short term. But again, it's this silly business of, what do you want? Do you want a successful football team that moves up the rankings gradually and plays pragmatic football, or do you want no fear attacking football? We'll see how that transpires. So look, a bad hire. They've fessed up to it. Huddersfield potentially in trouble if they get this wrong. Does still depend on Sheffield Wednesday and QPR perking up, or Rotherham, who are rock bottom, doing something, as we said, out of character for what they've done for the previous part of this season. I haven't got the foggiest who they're going to bring in. I'll put that to you in the comments. But I think Huddersfield didn't have 3 managers last season as well. Danny Schofield, Mark Fotheringham, crikey. And then Warnock had a fair amount of time, I think, towards the end of the season, didn't he? And for 2 seasons running now, Huddersfield and their fans are going to be sick to the back teeth for this. They're going to have 3 managers across the campaign as well, and that does not smell good. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Darren Moore, the hire, the ultimate failure of it. Where next for Darren Moore? Where next for Huddersfield? And I will see you tonight with Sam Parkin. He'll elucidate on this for the Championship Check-In podcast.